Have you ever wondered how to make one of these lanterns a little bit more modern, even though you want it to look old? Well, I've got an idea for you. Okay, so this one I already took apart. These are, I don't know, they're like little LED lanterns. You see the little LED lights inside there. And they have the battery compartments on the bottom. I picked these up at the free area at my dump. This one I took apart already. I took the bottom out. It's a little dented and banged up. I'm going to try to get that straightened out a little bit. But I took all the guts out and got it apart, which is what I wanted to do. And I'm going to show you how I do it. So this one I left alone so that I can show you how I do it. So in order to get the glass out of these, you pull up on this part here, and then you tilt this out, your little middle section, you'll tilt it out, and you just start taking the pieces apart that'll come out. So there's wires in here that I had to cut. As you can see, they were attached down here. I cut them off. And there's also some screws holding this one together. Sometimes you don't have all this stuff, but this one does have. So I'm just going to take these out, just a couple turns. Okay. Oops. It's not quite done. There we go. Okay, and then that will allow me to take this LED light out of the middle. And then I have all the parts up top out that I need. And then underneath here, now the reason why I'm taking these apart is because this one is all damaged at the bottom and it wasn't going to work anyway. It had most of the pieces missing for the battery. But this is the battery compartment of this one. As you can see, it's leaked. The batteries have leaked. And they're just corroded and yucky. And typically when that happens, you can go in and try and clean it and get it to work. But typically when that happens, it's pretty well done for. So, and it won't work again. So what I'm going to do is just start taking these pieces apart here. Again, I have some more wires down here, right here. And then I'm going to take off this side here, if I can. Oops, wrong screwdriver. Maybe. Well, there we go. And then we got all the bottom stuff taken out. All right, now I've got them all cleaned up the best that I can, all taken apart. I'm going to clean up the cover to the battery compartment and get that all cleaned up as well. We don't want any of that nasty battery stuff, but I do want these to put back on the bottom if I can. This red one has got quite the damage issue, so I'm not sure if it will even stay in there, but if it doesn't, you can't really see the bottom, so it's not a big deal. But we got all that cleaned up and the lanterns cleaned up. So on this red one, we are going to just add a candle to it, just a battery operated candle that I have. I grubby these up myself. They're on my Etsy shop. And you can just, once you've taken all the guts out, you can just set this guy inside. And then you lift up your top part here. Just lift it up as high as you can. And then get your glass in there. I've already cleaned the glass as well. And then you're going to gently tip it and get that in there just so. Now you're going to want to use a timer candle in these so that you don't have to open them every single time you want to turn them on and off. So that's what I would recommend anyways if you wanted to do something like that. You also, because there is a hole in the bottom a little bit, if you had a taper candle, you could put it one of those smaller, I think, what are they, 4-inch taper candles down in there. You could use this other piece here and you could turn it. You could put your candle in there. And then you don't even have to put your glass in if you don't want to. You could put your glass in. And then that holds your candle in there. So that's an option to do if you wanted to have not a plug-in. if you want to do a plug-in for your lantern, I'm going to turn this way. Okay, I purchased a big box of these clip lights. These are from Darice, right here. That's the word right there. And these are like the for the villages, the little villages for Christmas time and whatnot to light up. And so these have the little clips on them. And it has a nice long cord with the little clicker on it. So you don't have to worry about taking the top off every time that you want to use it. The only catch with this is that you want to get, or one of the catches with this, I'm going to take the bulb right out because we're not even going to use this bulb. I'm a little extra and I use the wax dipped, which is from Creative Hobbies. I get these wax dipped ones. I like to put those in. So those are going to go, or that one of those is going to go in. But you want to get your cord down through this hole inside and out the back. So you want to figure out where you want your back to be. And then you have your cord, just go right out that part. I'm going to try to do this without unraveling all of my cord, just because it's a pain in the butt. There we go. All right, so now your cord will be out of the way, and you don't have to worry about that like getting pinched or anything like that. And you can go ahead and put your glass on and it won't bother it any. So to get it to stay, you want to pinch your little clips together and put it down through the hole till it locks in. This side's got to go down a little bit further. There we go. So it just locks right in the side there. Just squeeze them till they go down in. You can see the little tabs going down. And I'm going to turn that so you can see it really well. And then I'm going to open up one of my little bulbs. You want to put this in first, of course. All right. And then put this guy in. And they're straight. There we go. All right, and then make sure that's down flat. And then we're going to lift this piece up, and that gives you clearance in here so that you can get your globe in. You want to tilt this too. There we go. And then put that in there. The mechanism to tilt it is here, and it locks down in here, so it will lock open for you. It's not sitting completely. All right, I've got it plugged in. We're going to turn the little clicker here. There we go. Oh, there we go. We've got a nice little lantern, electrified, but it kind of looks like an old lantern. So that's pretty cool. And it's all on this nice long cord, so you can plug that in and just run it down behind wherever you're going to put it. You can also hang it. It's got the hanger on there, and put it on some kind of a hook or something. But that's how I convert these over. Like I said, you also could use this. You could put that in there as well to cover up around the outside of your light so that you don't see all that extra stuff. I like to take pip berries and go in around a nice ring of them, candle ring, and that usually helps cover up a lot of that stuff inside so you don't see it. There it is with the metal piece that's in there, so that kind of covers up a little bit of that bulb and the holder in there. So I think that looks really good. It looks a lot better with that on there. So, and you can paint that black so it all blends in together, or you can just leave it the way it is. Now these were something that were going to get tossed. They were broken, didn't work. I just realized these little buttons here on the little fuel filler, they're the actual on-off switches for your fuel tank. And these things actually come off. Isn't that funny? That is funny. And you could take that little thing out, but I think I'm going to leave it in there just because it fills in that hole. And but it's pretty funny that fuel cap comes off because it doesn't really hold fuel. But anyway, I thought that was super cute and a good way to save these old lanterns because, hey, these look vintage and they look like they would fit into a nice vignette, light a little kitchen up, a bathroom, living room, wherever. And super cute, I think. This was a thrifted find and I put it in my stash and just dug it out recently. And I want to do a little flip on it. So we're going to just take off this piece in the middle so that we can show the hole that's there because I want to use that for my design on this mailbox. Now, of course, once I get it apart, it's going to need to be cleaned, so I'm going to grab my Mrs. Meyer's. I really love this brand. It's a nice cleaner with essential oil, and it smells so good. This one is the lemon, but I'm really loving the daisy one right now. I have that one that I use in my kitchen a lot, and I really love it. So this will get it nice and clean, and once I do that, then I can move on to my next step, which is I'm going to paint just the front top piece with a lighter color. I'm going to be decoupaging a napkin over the top of this, and I want that napkin to pop really well. So I'm going to do 2 coats over this so that I cover up my brush strokes the best that I can and get that black covered up. Usually I just do 1 because it really doesn't matter. You don't see it. And I really could have got away with doing 1 coat because this napkin is really thick, actually. I kept checking it to see if there was another layer there. I couldn't get it to come apart if there was. But I just kept checking it over and over to see if I could get the other layer off because it just felt so thick. But it's just a good quality napkin. I think I got this from Natalie at Sparks of Joy Studio. It came with an order that I placed with her. And it's really nice. I really love the sunflowers. That's my thing. So I'm going to take this stamp with writing on it, and I just stamped it off a little bit and got rid of some of the ink so that it was light. And then I dried it, made sure that it was nice and dry because that ink does not dry fast. So I used my heat gun and I still got a little bit of smearing, but it's no big deal. It actually all was for naught because once I got this thick napkin on, you really couldn't see it even after laying it down and getting it all on there. So then I just added my Mod Podge over the top of that to get it to stick down. And so I'm just doing a nice thin layer over the middle of it. And I want to make sure the middle of my napkin goes over that hole because I am going to be cutting that out. I want it to look like there's a little bird's nest in this mailbox. So that's why this napkin is just perfect for that. And of course, I love the colors and it's just going to be perfect with that black. So once I'm done finishing up with the Mod Podge onto the back of my napkin, I'm just going to make sure it's all down and I'll let it dry just for a few minutes. It dries pretty quickly. And once I get it a little bit dry, use my heat gun a little bit, I'm going to go in with my razor blade and just cut out that middle piece. And I'll also cut out the edges as well to just get that excess napkin off. I will end up sanding that off later on, but for now, we're just going to get rid of the excess. I grabbed a piece of parchment paper to put a layer between my napkin and my iron that I've heated up, and it's nice and hot. I am going to just try and iron my napkin a little bit. It's wrinkly, which I don't mind because it adds to the texture and the age when I put on the antique wax. But I wanted to see if I could get it to just lay down a little bit better, and it worked pretty well. I just did it a couple times, went around it, and nice and slow, and just let that iron do the work. I'm then going to go with my little finger sander. Thank you, Barb. Again, it works really well. And I'm just going to get rid of some of the excess paper that the razor blade didn't get. And then I'm going to go along the edges and get rid of the paint that went along and kind of dripped over the side. I want to make sure that it's nice and clean. Of course, then I want to seal in my paper over the top of my mailbox with a little bit more Mod Podge. I'm just going to put a sealer over this. It's going to dry clear so that I can then add my antique wax. I don't show it at the end, but I do take my Rust-Oleum clear sealer and spray this twice. I let it dry the first time, spray it again, and let that dry just to give it some extra seal. Now that my Mod Podge is dry, I'm going to go in with my antique wax and go just around the edges first to see. I always do this first to see how I like it, if that's going to be enough antiquing for me. And of course, if you don't want to use this and do this part, if you had something similar that you were doing, you could skip this part and not do it at all and just leave it the white background and sealed. That would be fine. But I like to age and antique my pieces. So I'm just going to, here you can see I went over the edges, wiped them back, and then I decided I was going to do the whole thing. I like the darker look of this, and it just gives it a feel that it's a little bit older and aged than what it really normally is. So now I'm going to fill that hole a little bit around the outside with some Spanish moss to make it look like there's a cute little bird's nest coming out of that hole. I did cut a little piece of a skewer, and I antique waxed that so that it would darken it up. And I'm just going to put that in one of the screw holes that was there that didn't get covered up by my paper. And I'm going to stick that in there and glue it so that it looks kind of like a little perch for a bird. I'm then just going to take my antique wax and go over all the black areas on my mailbox. I want to seal that. Plus, I want to give it an aged look for the rest of the mailbox. And of course, like I said, I do go in with my Rust-Oleum clear sealer and give it a spray once this is all done. I have this cute little bird, and I thought he matched so well, the colors, the orange and the yellows and the browns, and I thought it was perfect. So, and he fit perfectly in the little hole, so it looked like he was kind of sticking his head out of the hole. And so I glued him in there, and then I started taking some greenery to make some of that green pop out of the napkin. And I even added a little bit of Sweet Annie around the hole just to dress it up a little bit and make it look like this little bird is really creative in his little house making. So this is how it came out. What do you think? I have this spindle here. It's made from, I think this is wood, and it looks very faded, but it looks like somebody tried to do a little Americana decor with this. And I want to do the same, but I'm going to paint it up and make it look a little bit better. So I have a little bit of apple barrel barn red and in the matte, and then I have folk art matte navy blue. And then I have Dixie Belle burlap color for my white. And all I'm going to do is just kind of follow what they have done already and paint the top first. I'm going to do that barn red. This is going to be primitive. So we want these not bright, bright red and bright blues. We want it to be darker and moodier and look older. I have a lovely fly buzzing around here, keeping me company. Don't know why. He won't leave me alone. He knows I'm not the one with the fly swatter. My husband is. And he's in the other room. I don't like how my stripes are coming out. They look terrible. So I'm going over, I let it dry, and now I'm going to go over everything with 2 coats of the burlap. And those are going to be my white stripes. The burlap is. So I'm going to go over this, and then I'll put my red stripes over the top once my burlap dries. And then I can do some better stripes, because trying to follow their stripes is not working out. So I'm just going to cover them up and then make my own. While the bottom dries, I'm going to go over this middle section that's blue and go over that again as well with my blue paint. I'm just going to cover everything all the way down to that burlap paint. And I'll also do the little strip on the bottom where it's blue. I'll also use my blue paint on that and freshen that up. Of course, I'm going to freshen it up and then make it look old again, but at least it's not all faded. I want it to have some good color. I just don't want it to be too faded. So that's going to look really good once I get done. These stars are going to get some burlap paint as well. I'm going to paint those once I get the blue paint on and get it dry. Now that I get everything else done, I'm going to try to go in and do my stripes. After doing all my stripes, and I feel much better about them, I like them a lot better, I'm going to take my antique wax and I'm going to do a heavy dose of it right on either side of these burlap stripes. So right on the red, just kind of in between the red and the burlap, so that you can see that dark stripe in between. I want to give that a nice dark look, and I'm not going to wipe that back. It's going to stay the way it is so that it stays dark, and it just kind of adds a little bit of definition to those stripes, I think, and also adds, it just gives it a different look and an aged look, I think. I started adding antique wax onto my stars, and then I decided I wanted to distress just the very edges of this little wood piece and kind of give them an aged look as well. And that way, when I go over it with the antique wax, it will give it an old look too. So I'm going to do that as well. And I'll probably go up the wood piece and go in the middle where the burlap is, and then also even on the red at the top. I'm just wanting to have these colors pop, but I also want to mute them a little bit with my antique wax. So that is going to work really well. And then I will show you what I'm going to do next. I ordered a bunch of these flags on Amazon. I think I got 12 of them, and I wanted the cloth ones, but these are the vinyl ones. So what I did was I put them down on a piece of paper, and I took my antique wax and brushed it on, just painted the antique wax onto the flags. I want to make them look old and aged so that they'll blend in with the piece that I just went over. So I just brushed it on and then wiped it back, and it and let it dry, and it aged it just the way I wanted it to. I had tried it with the coffee, and the coffee did not stay. It rinsed right out. So that's why I had to use this. But now I'm going to go in with my antique wax and just stain my posts that the flags go on. I'm going to give them a good coat of that and then wipe it back. And then I'll add my flags back on, and we'll be able to then add them to my little statue here. I got a drill big enough so my sticks on my flags would fit down into the holes, and then I could just glue them in to make sure they'll stay. And I added those, and then I went back and just made it kind of slanted so that they would lean kind of to the side. And then I also went in, I was originally going to just do 2 flags, and then I decided it just didn't quite look right and it needed a 3rd flag. So I went and did another hole and glued in a 3rd flag into that little stand, and I think it looks much better. This is so cute, and I see these everywhere, and I've always wanted to do one. And I had this this little wood piece for quite a while. I don't know if I thrifted it or picked it up somewhere, but I've always wanted to do it over and do this, so I'm glad I got this done today. I added some Spanish moss to the top to cover up the holes and the glue that I used to hold these flags in, and I think this came out so cute. You'll have to let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed my thrifted projects today. Let me know down in the comments if you had a favorite and which one it was. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and share is very important. Share this out to your social media, to your friends, and let's get some more views on my videos. For some reason, it's just not getting out there. For some reason, YouTube just doesn't want to push my videos, and I'm not really sure what else I need to do, but I would appreciate it if you would share this with your friends. If you want to see more repurposed, upcycled, and DIY videos, check out this one on your screen. I know you're going to love it.